Hello, welcome to the Sports Philanthropy podcast. This is your host, Roy Kessel, and today we are very excited to have with us a special guest. We have Gretchen Hamm. Gretchen is the Chief Growth Officer for the Washington Spirit. So Gretchen, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. Let's get going.
We're excited to have you with us, and we look forward to learning more about the great work that the Spirit is doing in the community and what the plans are for the future with the Spirit. But I want to take you back to your childhood and learn more about Gretchen and how you developed your passion and love for sports.
Man, well, I think I started playing soccer at a very young age. My parents put me into a multi-sport camp. I think it was a summer camp at the YMCA. And I was about 5 and just fell in love with soccer. And that was my main sport. I did play softball and basketball in high school, softball growing up and basketball in high school. But soccer definitely had my heart, and I had a great club team and experience and had a wonderful high school experience, and was coming up, right behind Mia Hamm and Julie Foudy and all those guys when the college programs were expanding. So I was able to play in college at Providence College, and I don't know how else people choose colleges. I look back and think that, how the heck does an 18-year-old, make that decision? So I was really lucky to have soccer to help guide me. And then when it came time to, choose a major, I still was clueless. And the captain of my soccer team was a marketing major. And she's like, "Oh, well, I'm a marketing major." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds great." I had really no idea what that meant. And then ended up working in our on-campus ice hockey arena one summer when I stayed at school. And it kind of opened my eyes to, this is the late 90s, right when, sports marketing was starting. So I was lucky that sports and soccer has really guided me, because I think otherwise I was kind of a clueless athlete.
Well, I mean, not so clueless. You took a good tip from a teammate and went off the marketing direction and got that experience. I think it's always a great tip for people trying to get into the sports business world is take advantage of some of those things during college where you have access to the athletic department and you may have volunteer opportunities or other things that go on that you might not have access to later as you're working in a different position. So I always commend people that did that, because it shows that initiative and really that desire to be in sports from a long-term perspective. So tell us about the early part of your career then. What kind of marketing work were you doing?
So I have, I think, sort of an non-traditional path. Again, I've been really lucky, or I don't know what I'm doing, and sort of one thing has led to another, and I've had people help me along the way. So I did a couple internships during college. I worked at the International Tennis Hall of Fame. I worked not only for the on-campus ice arena, but in the ticketing office. So got different aspects of the team. Did some merchandising even, and an alumni actually of Providence hooked me up with. There was an ice arena up in the southern part of Massachusetts that was looking for a pro shop manager. And so was able to stay in hockey and do that, and had a lot of fun running a store and doing merchandise. I love, mixing things up and selling and being goal oriented, and was able to quadruple sales in, the course of the year. And then actually got recruited across town. Some guys were opening a multi-sport facility, including turf fields. And with my soccer background, they thought I'd be a great fit. So I helped open that up and ran all the turf programming and ran the pro shop and did sort of the marketing, which was great. And I think really taught me how to do marketing with a sales focus or a program, a growth focus. I think that's kind of where the growth came from at an early time. I came down, went to graduate school at GW. There's a great sports marketing program at the George Washington University, and was able to work in the athletic department, which was great. I worked for the athletic director who did, all the alumni and development, and he did the events and the entertaining and the basketball stuff. So that was great. And it was Carl Hobbs was the coach at the time, and they had a nice couple seasons, and met more alumni, and ended up actually working for Bill Collins, who was trying to bring the now Nationals, then the Montreal Expos, down to Virginia. So kind of did a grassroots campaign. So that was my first, I would say, community focused type thing. We did, 40 community grassroots events throughout Arlington County, drumming up support. And I like to say that we were half successful. We got the team down to the DMV, but they went with the Learners Ownership Group. So it's been fun to see that. And then I got into really the nonprofit world. I ran the First Tee of Washington, D.C. for 6 years. I went in, and they were transitioning from really a board-run nonprofit to wanting to transition to a staff-run nonprofit, and wanted to be a top chapter in the country. And so a lot of program development. We developed our core fundraising. Again, this had been driven kind of by board donations. So we created 3 capstone fundraising events targeting different audiences throughout the year, expanded the programming calendar, expanded the program offerings. And that was a very rewarding time, and learned to play golf at that time, which was super helpful. I'm a big fan of business golf, especially for women. And then again, was kind of recruited. Another GW alum actually reached out, and I was able to help a Wounded Warrior Golf nonprofit who was based in Maryland. They wanted to expand nationally. So I spent a year flying around the country, meeting with donors and creating partnerships, and even did a partnership with the PGA Tour, and which was just incredible. And then I went on my own for a while and did a lot of stuff in golf, a lot of charity golf tournaments. I love a good impact event where you can have, a programming impact, a philanthropic impact, and something for your donors to do and connect around. And then I got back into soccer, actually. A big club here, Arlington Soccer, was looking to, for some marketing help and fundraising and development and communications and all that. So I had coached with them about 100 years ago, so I knew some of the guys. So that was actually a really, really fun time. Arlington's a pretty tight-knit community, so we were able to we added a casino night fundraising event that supported the financial aid. And one of my favorite parts of it was, in the soccer world, in the club soccer world, a lot of the volunteer opportunities are, okay, I'll be a manager for the team, or I'll be a coach, right? I think there's a lot of parents that want to contribute in other ways. So actually, our event planner was a mom who volunteered her time. And then our DJ was an Arlington dad who by day is like a top sales executive, and by night is this amazing DJ. And then there was a band actually of 3 of the 5 guys were Arlington dads. And so it was a really fun event where just a lot of different parts of the organization, were able to come in and volunteer their time. And so that really helped make an impact to the financial aid fund. But also it was dubbed soccer prom, and everybody got, really dressed up, and so that was a fun, really coming together for a good cause. And then actually, got a call a couple years ago there was a new owner coming into the Spirit, and he was looking for front office staff. And so I jumped on board. I said I have a lot of opinions on how women's soccer should be marketed and connected to the community, and how it should be treated. And a week later, I had an incredible offer, and 2.5 years later, we're heading into the 3rd season, and it's been quite a ride.
Well, it sounds like you're obviously doing a great job there, as you shared, getting more and more responsibilities thrown onto your plate, and obviously speaks to the success and the vision that you've had as you've grown with the Spirit. And you said you were very opinionated about what women's soccer should look like. So why don't you share what you think that looks like, and why you think that's different from what an ownership group may have expected when they were hiring somebody.
Well, one of the first things, well, the two first things I did was I said, we're not the NFL, we're not the Redskins now, Washington football team. Like, we have to get out and connect with the community. We have to go out, get our players out, get ourselves out there, and connect with the community, because they don't know who we are. When I first took this job, my introduction to folks was like 3 or 4 sentences long, because I had to explain who we were still, even though the team had been around for 7 years. And so we got out to youth clubs, Girl Scouts, and basically anywhere that would have us that, was kind of within the DMV and had a sports connection or a soccer connection. We went out, and our players, are our best ambassadors. So that was really my first thing that we did. And that has continued. We have a massive community commitment, both in terms of the players' times, our staff time, dollars, using our platform to raise, whether it's social justice or, our community partners. And then the second thing that we really had to go do was develop stronger relationships with the press. I think women's soccer, or women's sports, I should say, there's a stat out there that we get, 4% of the media coverage. And so I said, well, we need to get every drop of, media coverage possible. So really made our players available. Our coach, Richie Burke, is an incredible personality. So those were the first two. Looking back, I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't hire salespeople. I didn't push, I really pushed just those authentic, transparent, connections out to the community, and to the press. And I think both have served us really well, and I think have been integral to our increased profile and trust with our fans and community and press in particular.
Well, you talk about the differences with women's sports, and there's a lot of sports, as you said, that aren't the NFL, right? That don't have that high profile exposure, and don't have athletes that are getting coverage every day. And I think that the strategies you're talking about are really important, because that connection to the community is really what brings people out. If you look at successful sports clubs that don't have that level of media coverage, how do you get more media coverage? You create a greater connection, and you get more grassroots and community organizations to be not only aware of you, but interested in you.
Yeah, it's we actually just had a call with this company that's doing some analytics on, kind of our values of our impact, and of our how do our social posts measure, and all these different things. And he ranked us that we had the highest level of sort of brand integrity in our market, as well as positive, I guess, positive attitude, or I forget what word it was. There's a lot of information, but that there is, when brands partner with us, there's a positive alliance or a positive connection for our fans to even the brand. So it's been, I think the strategy has been working, and our players love our fans, love our community. I mean, we're really lucky that it works with our personnel.
Yeah, you talk about that positive impact and that brand integrity, and that's something that's really important, especially as you look at the community efforts and the philanthropic efforts of an organization, because that's really your mission and what you're standing for. And if you want people to support those initiatives, you have to be able to walk the walk, not just create a great graphic or a splashy campaign that sounds good, and then when people look behind it, there's no substance there. So as you look in the different roles you've had, from marketing officer to revenue officer to growth officer, talk a little bit about how that community aspect especially given your nonprofit background, how that impacted the way you approach those roles.
Yeah, I think it's been beneficial to have that background, because I know what the nonprofits need on the other side, and how, you know, a lot of times a group can come to a nonprofit and, you know, with an idea or with an appearance, and it might be just kind of a drop in and, you know, sign some autographs and leave. We try to have deeper relationships with our partner groups, but also make it easy for the partner groups, right? We don't want to come in and disrupt their, you know, what they have going on. But, you know, we work deeply with DC Score. So I serve on the board for them as a Washington Spirit representative, and we do a lot with them, both from, you know, our players. They did like a couple of rounds of backpack stuff, and there's only so much we can do over COVID. But, you know, our players actually have volunteered their time. Pre-COVID, they had come out en masse to the events. You know, those are really great opportunities that create just win-win, you know, events, right? Like, they're getting some VIPs. Our players are having a good time. They get to dress up. They're, you know, celebrities in that realm. You know, and then, you know, press, like I always say, we need to have 3 of our 5 objectives hit on every single event we do, because we're lean. But, you know, again, not just putting up a graphic or whatever. When this last summer, there was obviously a lot of support around Black Lives Matter, and, you know, we had a nationally televised game and we couldn't have fans. And so I suggested, okay, well, you know, you guys want to have the Black Lives Matter sign? That's wonderful. Let's also use this platform of a nationally televised game. Let's reach out to some Black-owned businesses and give them some free signage and advertise their business, and sort of, you know, let's, I don't know, really maximize, like, do something, right? Not just say we're supporting it, but showcase some. So we featured, I think, 5 Black-owned businesses, both on signage in a nationally televised game, but also in our game day magazine and on our website. And so I think doing things like that are more actionable are fantastic. I don't know if you saw during the Challenge Cup last year in Utah, there was this playground. It just happened to be at the stadium, and it just was in the camera shot, and it just got all sorts of attention. And so again, we had a nationally televised game. So I have a friend who's a contractor. I said, can we find a kids playground that we can do? So we actually had a playground out at the game. And then we donated it was kind of our first gift to Loudoun County. So there's a great charitable organization out there called Mobile Hope, that has some children's services and has a physical location. They're actually moving to a newer location. So we were able to donate this, you know, massive, you know, playground, as sort of our first gift. That was our first game in Loudoun County, as sort of a first gift to a partner in Loudoun County. So I like to do things like that are just have a little more meat on the bones.
Well, the other thing I like about what you're describing is the creativity element, because you can plan everything you want, but sometimes, just like trying to decide what's going to go viral on social media, it's not really a decision. It's somewhat luck. You can have a good strategy and you can put things together, but why does this initiative or this meme go viral? I think it's great that you took that playground concept and then you use that as a way to make that donation. And the example of profiling the Black businesses on a telecast and giving them that exposure, again, that's walking the walk, where you really take advantage, and it's not just lip service, it's you're doing something real to help those organizations. And so the COVID world was crazy, right? It created one set of opportunities, certainly lots of challenges, and now hopefully we're winding down the issues relating to COVID. They're not going to be gone with the snap of the finger, but we're hoping over the course of your season now that soon enough you're going to be at full capacity, and certainly as the summer goes by and the weather warms up and more and more people are vaccinated. What's the timetable you're hearing and what's your expectations for how you can start doing community events again? Because that was something clearly that you're not able to do in a other than in a virtual space.
Yes, and they did pivot really well. I think I heard from our community relations folks that it was something like 200 Zooms that our players did with different folks last year. So we were able to still stay connected, which was great. I know, again, our DC Scores partnership, they have 2 events, and one in September, one in October, that they feel pretty confident about. So fingers crossed, we'll be able to participate in those. I was kind of always hoping, post Olympics that we'd be back to full capacity. I think that's a realistic timeline. The NWSL has been, very, as they should be, Lisa Baird, very protective of our players and their interactions. So I'm hoping that, by August, we actually have a nationally televised game August 22nd at Audi Field. I'm hoping by that time that we'll be able to be, full force back out, connecting with our youth partners, connecting with our with Children's Hospital, with like I said, DC Scores, Comfort Case is another group that we do a lot with. So hopefully we're just a couple months away.
Well, that's exciting, and I think everybody would welcome the chance to be back in a fully live capacity and back together, right, with human interaction and fans. And even though I think it's been great to have the competition going, I think we all realized how much we missed sports when those few months of everything was literally shut down and there were no sports on TV and no sports to talk about on the TV shows, on the radio, anything else. At least now we've had the competition, and now getting back that energy that the fans provide, I think will be a big accomplishment. So as you look ahead now, you said the expectation post-Olympics of being back to a full-scale crowd. What does that open up for you in terms of community activations and philanthropic involvement?
Well, I'm hoping we will, just being able to, again, fingers crossed, have 19,000 people at Audi Field is a lot of eyeballs. So that can mean, food drives, back to school drives where fans can participate and bring stuff. It means being able to showcase our partners, whether it's in stadium or, by activation type things, or even that, in stadium advertising just is getting a ton more eyeballs. Well, the players will be able to be back, obviously, out in person, doing things. In 2019, we did a pretty cool game worn jersey. This was actually in game and online auction. So I think just having continued more eyeballs and continued platform, and then one of our October games is in conjunction with a very large girls soccer tournament here, the WAGS tournament, Women and Girls in Soccer. So, fingers crossed we'll be able to be doing a college coach reception or panel for players. Players will be at that game. And then again, hopefully our players and our coaches will be able to be out handing out trophies, on a championship Sunday and really connecting. They're one of our great partners. So, and then hopefully we'll be in contention for, playoffs and the championship.
Well, it's you've got big plans there, and hopefully as you get everybody back on board, it certainly sounds like you've got a full slate there and some great ideas with DC Scores and with WAGS to be able to start ramping up and getting back into some more direct and live interactions for the community. What about longer term? What types of things are you hoping to be able to build around the spirit?
So we are looking at 2022 we do some things with members of Congress. So actually in 2019, following the World Cup Championship, the U.S. Soccer Caucus actually hosted a reception for us, which was very well received, and very fun, and got us into a whole different audience. So we're looking to probably again in 22 do some kind of congressional diplomatic soccer game. So we have, ties with our Japanese players, we have a Swedish international, we have some Canadian internationals, and obviously just there's so many diplomats here in DC. So we're looking to host a charitable game at Audi Field, like I said, probably in 2022, kind of around that, a little bit different of an audience. Will be, let's see, what else do we have in our longer term pipeline? We've been on such a week to week, month to month basis. You're putting me off my rhythm here with looking for next year. I think it'll be really fascinating to see what we do for preseason. We've gone to Florida the last couple of years and engaged differently there. Certainly our new investors, we have an interesting group of new investors. So there's some mentorship potentially with some of those guys, and then some other activities. A few of our players are starting graduate school at Shenandoah University, which is a new partner of ours. So I think it'll be interesting to see what we might be doing internationally in 2022. Again, maybe it's preseason, maybe it's one-off player things, but we have a couple international focused investors. So we'll see. I don't even know. You got me you're way out of my comfort zone here and talking about 2022.
Well, I mean, clearly you've had a great track record in terms of the nonprofit work you've done and what you've been building at the Spirit. And so I want to congratulate you on what you've accomplished. And it looks like you've got a lot more building and even more in the pipeline for the coming years. So we appreciate you taking the time to join us today. If people want more information about the Spirit, what's the best way for them to get that?
Yeah, our website is amazing, www.washingtonspirit.com. And we're on all the platforms at Wash Spirit.
Well, I hope people go and check that out and see the great work that you're doing and see how they can contribute to support the work in the Washington community and beyond, and look forward to seeing what we can do to help and collaborate with you. But before we let you go, I do want to put you on the spot for a minute here. And what we're going to do is use our sports philanthropy superpowers, and we're going to wave our magic wand. And we're going to appoint you as commissioner of a sport. So tell us what sport you would like that to be.
Well, I have to say that, Lisa Baird is doing a great job, but I would love to come in behind her and be the next commissioner.
So you're going to send Lisa to the beach to retire in Florida, and then Gretchen's going to take over. So now it's your first act in charge. What are you going to change?
I think I would probably eliminate our age minimum now. I think there's some young players coming up. There's a 15-year-old who wants to play, and I think we should look at that. And I think this isn't a rule, but the other thing I would like to do is take some of our teams and do some neutral site games. Our league is growing. We have San Diego and Sacramento. I'm sorry, LAFC, Angel City, and San Diego coming in next year. But I think we need to take our teams. I think every team should do 1 or 2 neutral games in other markets, right? Like your Austins, your Minneapolises, Nashville's, Atlanta's, markets that don't have women's soccer, and start getting that interest and connection going sooner rather than later.
Well, and I think, as you said, it's they don't have soccer now, but given the popularity of the sport and given the strength that the NWSL has shown and the growth, I think that you're going to see a significant explosion over the next decade in terms of where the league is going to have that presence, and certainly I think aligning with the league and getting into those other markets and having that movement again. Once COVID's done, I think it's a lot easier to say we can do things, like the beginning of the season and the cups and things like that, where you can move some of those games around to different markets and give that experience and exposure, because there's nothing like it for young girls in particular, right? Going and being able
Mhm.
to see their role models up live and in person. And if you're not in one of the few communities that have teams right now, you don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important for girls and women in particular to see what they can be, right? It's really hard for girls and women to break those barriers. I think it's harder for us. And so the more that we can put examples up front of whether it's female executives or female players, I think that's really important for young women.
Well, Gretchen, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and look forward to following your continued success.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great. Thanks, Roy.
And for all of our viewers and listeners, we appreciate you taking the time to join us for the Sports Philanthropy Podcast. This is your host, Roy Kessel, signing off. Please remember to live generously. Thank you.